Have you ever looked at a Hollywood star you once recognized instantly and suddenly had to do a double take? What really happened behind those once perfect faces? In an industry built on youth, image, and impossible standards, the pressure to stay flawless never really goes away. And for some celebrities, the choices they made didn't just change how they look, they changed everything. In today's video, we're taking a closer look at 10 of the most talked about transformations in Hollywood, what led to them, how the public reacted, and the impact on their careers. Some of these changes are subtle, others are impossible to ignore. And by the end, there's one transformation that still has people asking the same question: what went wrong? Linda Evangelista was once considered one of the most iconic faces of the 1990s, a defining presence in an era that helped shape modern beauty standards. Known for her extraordinary versatility, she could reinvent her look from one runway to the next, becoming a favorite of top designers and photographers around the world. For years, her image represented control, transformation, and perfection. But in later life, her story began to reflect a very different side of the beauty industry. After undergoing cool sculpting, a non-surgical procedure widely marketed as a safe and convenient way to reduce fat, Evangelista experienced an outcome she never expected. Instead of shrinking, fat cells in certain areas of her body increased, leading to a rare condition known as paradoxical adipose hyperplasia. The physical changes were significant, but the emotional impact proved even more difficult. Evangelista later revealed that the experience left her feeling disfigured and deeply affected her confidence, leading her to step away from public life for several years. When she eventually chose to speak about what happened, her story resonated widely. At a time when non-invasive cosmetic treatments are often promoted as quick and low-risk solutions, her experience offered a sobering reminder. Even the most routine procedures can carry unexpected consequences. Her honesty didn't just reopen a conversation about beauty standards, it forced people to reconsider the real cost of chasing perfection and the risks that are sometimes hidden behind the promise of simplicity. Kenny Rogers was more than just a country music star. For over 6 decades, his voice became a familiar presence in American homes, known for its warmth, depth, and unmistakable character. Songs like The Gambler and Islands in the Stream weren't just hits, they became part of the cultural fabric for generations of listeners. To many, Rogers represented authenticity. His image, like his music, felt grounded and genuine. But as time moved forward, the pressures of staying relevant in a highly visual industry began to take their toll. By the 1990s, with the rise of high-definition television and constant media exposure, even small changes in appearance became more noticeable. Like many public figures, Rogers faced a growing expectation to maintain a youthful look. Hoping to make only subtle improvements, he chose to undergo cosmetic procedures, including a facelift and eyelid surgery. The outcome, however, was not what he had intended. The familiar, rugged features that fans had connected with for decades appeared altered, tighter, less expressive, and, to some, less recognizable. The change sparked quiet reactions among audiences who struggled to reconcile the new appearance with the artist they had long admired. Rogers later addressed the experience with honesty. In interviews, he admitted that the results left him feeling disconnected from his own reflection and expressed regret over the decision. His story serves as a reminder that even well-intentioned changes can have lasting consequences, especially when they alter the very identity people have come to know and trust. Lisa Rinna has long been a familiar face on American television, but her journey with cosmetic procedures began well before she became widely known. In her early 20s, during the height of 1980s beauty trends, she made a decision that would shape her appearance for decades, undergoing silicone lip injections in 1986. At the time, fuller lips were seen as a symbol of glamour and confidence. For years, the choice seemed to work in her favor. Her lips became a defining feature, helping her stand out both on-screen and in public appearances. They were bold, memorable, and undeniably part of her identity. However, unlike temporary fillers, silicone injections are permanent, and over time, the long-term effects began to surface. The material gradually hardened, leading to discomfort, uneven texture, and visible asymmetry. What once enhanced her look slowly became a source of concern. After nearly 25 years, Rinna made the difficult decision to undergo corrective surgery in 2010 to remove the damaged tissue. While the procedure brought some relief, it could not fully restore her original appearance. In the years that followed, she continued exploring other cosmetic treatments, including fillers and Botox. Observers began to notice subtle but meaningful changes, particularly in her facial expressions, which at times appeared less natural. More recently, Rinna has spoken candidly about her experiences. She has acknowledged that not every decision worked in her favor and has taken steps to reverse certain procedures. Her story highlights a broader reality. Choices made in pursuit of confidence can sometimes lead to outcomes that are far more difficult to undo. Joan van Ark first became a familiar presence on American television during the 1970s and 1980s, best known for her role as Valine Ewing on Knots Landing. With her soft features, expressive eyes, and natural elegance, she represented a kind of classic beauty that audiences found both approachable and memorable. For many viewers, her appeal wasn't just about appearance, it was about warmth. Her expressions felt genuine, and that authenticity helped define her on-screen presence. But as the years passed, the expectations surrounding that image began to shift. Like many performers working in an industry that places a high value on youth, Van Ark faced growing pressure to maintain a certain look. In the early 1990s, she was reported to have undergone a subtle rhinoplasty. At the time, the change appeared minimal. However, over the years, it seemed to be followed by additional procedures, including facelifts, eyelid surgery, and various skin treatments. Individually, each decision may have been intended as a small adjustment. But collectively, the results became more noticeable. The soft, open expressions that audiences once associated with her began to appear more restrained. Some of the natural warmth that had defined her presence on screen felt less visible, at least to longtime viewers. By the early 2000s, public attention toward these changes had intensified. Conversations about her evolving appearance increasingly took focus, sometimes overshadowing a career that had spanned decades. Her story reflects a broader pattern in Hollywood, where the effort to preserve an image can, over time, begin to reshape it in unexpected ways. Cayetana Fitzjames Stewart stood as one of the most distinctive figures in modern European aristocracy. As the head of Spain's historic House of Alba, she carried a legacy that stretched back centuries and held an extraordinary number of noble titles, reportedly more than 40. But beyond tradition and status, she was known for something far more personal. Her vibrant personality, independent spirit, and refusal to conform made her a figure who stood apart, even within elite circles. Like anyone in the public eye, however, she could not escape the effects of time. By the 1980s, it was widely believed that she had become more conscious of aging. What may have started as subtle cosmetic enhancements gradually appeared to evolve into multiple procedures over the years, including facelifts and injectable treatments. At the same time, her appearance was influenced by a rare medical condition known as Melkersen-Rosenthal syndrome, which can cause recurring facial swelling. This added a layer of complexity, making it difficult to separate the effects of health-related changes from those of cosmetic intervention. As her look continued to evolve, public attention grew. Observers often speculated, but clear answers were not always available. Yet through it all, she remained unapologetically herself, maintaining her presence, her independence, and her place in public life. When she passed away in 2014, she left behind more than titles and history. She left a legacy defined not just by how she looked, but by how she chose to live, regardless of how the world responded. LaToya Jackson grew up in one of the most recognized families in entertainment, alongside her brother Michael Jackson. From an early age, life in the public eye meant constant attention and constant comparison. For LaToya, that scrutiny often extended beyond her work and into her appearance. In the 1980s, she began building her own career as a singer, actress, and model, working to establish an identity separate from her family's legacy. But even as her professional path developed, the pressure to meet certain beauty standards remained a consistent presence. By the late 1980s, she was widely reported to have undergone rhinoplasty, marking one of the first noticeable changes to her look. At the time, the adjustment appeared relatively subtle. However, over the years, it was believed that additional cosmetic procedures followed. As these changes accumulated, her appearance gradually shifted. Her features became more refined, sometimes appearing tighter and more sculpted than before. For some observers, the transformation was striking. not just because of how she looked, but because it invited renewed comparisons to her brother, something that had followed her for much of her life. Those comparisons often drew attention away from her own work, shaping public perception in ways that were difficult to control. In more recent years, LaToya has spoken more openly about her personal journey, choosing to focus less on speculation and more on her lived experience. Her story reflects a familiar challenge in Hollywood: the struggle to define your own identity when both appearance and legacy are constantly under public review. Goldie Hawn has remained a familiar and beloved presence in American entertainment for more than 5 decades. Rising to prominence in the late 1960s, she quickly became known for her warmth, natural humor, and unmistakable charm. With her bright blue eyes and expressive smile, she represented a kind of effortless appeal that resonated across generations. For many viewers, Hawn's image felt genuine, less about perfection and more about personality. But like so many in Hollywood, time inevitably introduced new challenges. As the industry continued to place a strong emphasis on youth and appearance, Hawn became the subject of ongoing public curiosity regarding how she maintained her look. While she has never publicly confirmed undergoing specific cosmetic procedures, some reports and expert commentary have suggested the possible use of treatments such as Botox and facial fillers. Over the years, subtle changes in her appearance have occasionally sparked discussion. For some observers, her expressions appeared slightly more refined or controlled at times, reflecting the broader influence of modern cosmetic trends in Hollywood. Yet even as these conversations emerged, they never fully defined her. In recent years, Hawn has stepped back from frequent on-screen work, choosing instead to focus on family life and philanthropic efforts, particularly through the Goldie Hawn Foundation, which supports children's mental well-being. Her story offers a different perspective, one that suggests lasting impact is not built on appearance alone, because while faces may change over time, the qualities people remember most often do not. Lin May was once a striking presence in Mexico's entertainment scene, particularly during the 1970s. Known for her energy, confidence, and stage presence, she built a reputation as a performer who could easily command attention. At the time, her image reflected vitality and charisma, qualities that helped define her career. But as the years passed, the pressure to maintain that image began to grow. Like many public figures, she faced the challenge of aging in an industry where appearance often plays a central role. In an effort to preserve a youthful look, May turned to cosmetic procedures. However, one decision would ultimately change the course of her life. According to her own account, she trusted an unqualified individual who injected substances into her face, reportedly including materials such as baby oil. The results were immediate and severe. Instead of subtle enhancement, the injections caused significant facial distortion. Over time, the damage became more pronounced, altering her appearance in ways that were difficult to reverse. The transformation was so drastic that many longtime observers struggled to recognize her. In the years that followed, May underwent multiple corrective procedures in an attempt to repair the damage. While some improvements were achieved, the effects could not be fully undone. Her experience has since become a widely cited cautionary tale. It underscores a critical point. When it comes to cosmetic treatments, proper medical expertise is not optional. Because in situations like this, the consequences are not temporary. They can be lasting. Looking back at the stories of Linda Evangelista, Kenny Rogers, Lisa Rinna, Joan Van Ark, Kaitana Fitz-James Stewart, LaToya Jackson, Goldie Hawn, and Lin May, a pattern begins to take shape. Different lives, different choices, but the same quiet pressure to hold on to something that was never meant to last. In Hollywood, appearance can open doors, but it can also create expectations that are impossible to meet forever. And over time, those expectations come with a cost, because aging doesn't just change how someone looks, it reveals who they are underneath. In the end, what people remember isn't perfection, it's presence, it's character, it's the story behind the face. If this video made you see these transformations a little differently, then maybe it's already done its job. Thank you for watching, and if you want to keep exploring the stories behind the headlines, don't forget to subscribe. There's always more beneath the surface.